Hey guys, it's lovely to have your company back here on my Hunkydory Crafts YouTube channel, where in this video we're going to be playing with something new, and that is our floral frame dies. So we're going to have a little bit of a play with them. I was hoping to do this video and have this video done a couple of days ago, however it just got a bit manic, and getting back after work and then everything else that needs done in the house took priority. So I thought, right, tonight, finished work, got home, not feeling that hungry, so I thought, perfect opportunity to start getting it filmed. So as I said, we're going to be playing with the new nesting dies. If you're watching this in real time, as of when I'm posting this, then of course they are new. Everything else that I'm using, most of what I'm using are all stocking lines at the moment as time watching, and that goes for Stix2 as well. So everything that I possibly can, I will link in the description for you to then pop across to, and of course then you can start to get creative and using all your own bits and pieces. Thank you so much for all the lovely comments that I've been receiving regarding the other videos. I know there's certain things that I say where I repeat myself, this being, although I don't necessarily comment or reply to them because of time, I do see them and I read them all because I get an email notification with every single comment, so it really is appreciated. Those that subscribe to my Hunkydory Crafts YouTube channel, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. It is something that Hunkydory are absolutely more than happy for me to do, but I do it in my own time because I get enjoyment doing this sort of thing in my own time. Hence why I can push the boundaries a little bit and I can be a little bit more forgiving and using things that aren't in stock, although I will always give you the heads up. But I know lots of you love to see what you've got from past Hunkydory collection stamp dies, etc. So I'll always let you know if they are a stocking line or a non-stocking line. But when it comes to this one, it's all about lines that are in stock across on hunkydorycrafts.co.uk as well as Stix2 as well. We are going to do a anniversary card. There we go. Couldn't think of the words there. And I'd actually made it a couple of days ago and I thought, you know what, that's going to work really well as a demonstration on my YouTube. So that's why we're going to recreate it and I'm going to show you it in a minute. However, you'll see it works really well for a sympathy card as well, because we're going that monochromatic grey and white tones, all grey and white. That is it. That's what made me think, oh, would work really well for a sympathy card as well. That's what we're going to do. The grey, the black, it is our brand new 2026 Matastic colours as well. So we've got newness when it comes to this in-depth demonstration. All done in real time. I don't edit any of this because the feedback that I've had from you guys over the years, and that is you love it in real time, because if I am colouring, I colour in real time. If I have to die cut multiple things, you see it in real time. You see that full process from start to end. Does mean that some of the videos can be longer. The longer the videos, YouTube doesn't always push them out as much. So that's why I really appreciate the likes, the thumbs up, hitting that bell notification and subscribing. It really is appreciated. So you can find me on all aspects of social. You've got my Hunkydory Crafts Facebook page. You've got my Hunkydory Crafts Instagram page. I also have TikTok as well. TikTok is work/personal. So I do little bits for work. However, I also have my personal side on it as well. So you get a little bit more of an in-depth of what I do when I'm not at work. I don't do anything bad. I don't say anything naughty, anything like that. Maybe the odd little mild naughty word, keeping in mind it is my personal one. So if you want to follow me across on TikTok, you can absolutely do that. It's just Craig Laird. You'll find me across there. Same as any of the other socials. Hunkydory Crafts. Craig Laird, Hunkydory Crafts. Most of you follow me anyway, which is really appreciated. That being said, shall we delve in? Let's show you what we're going to be making. Now, forgive me when it comes to my glass mat, because I've not got around to cleaning it just yet. This is what we're going to be making. Now, we're going to be creating that kind of skeleton. It's like a chipboard. There's a couple of layers there. And then what we're going to do, this is actually looking as though I've got a die cut white circle over the top. I've not. I've actually die cut in to the actual die cut layer. So that's what we're going to do, and this is why I was saying this works really well for a sympathy, because we're going to go in with happy, well, I've done happy anniversary for this one, but works really well for the sympathy, and it's nice having the crossover of sentiments, because I've got the circle sentiments with, of course, those vertical sentiments as well. So it all works really, really well. So what we're going to be using, we are going to be using our DL Floral panel dies, the roses. We're going to need our circle nesting dies. Now I'm going to use the both of them that we've got, simply because I want that increment really quite small. So I'm going to use a couple of these ones. And then we're going to be using our sentiment edge nesting dies. I'm just going to check with love, get well soon, thank you, best wishes. Get well. Do you know what? Actually, we could still use with love and sympathy. They would still work together. So we're going to use that. Then the vertical sentiments. And then we've got our Matastic. Where's my swatch? I'm sure it's cotton white, and morning mist. Yeah, cotton white and morning mist. That's what we're going to be using. And then I'm also going to be using my A4 Essential card block, because we're going to be creating our own DL card blank. It is going to be a larger card, so therefore what you would need to do, I'm not going to do it in this video, but make like a DL boxed envelope to then pop that into. You can do that afterwards. Simple adhesives, I'm going to go in with my double-sided adhesive tapes. Of course, if you've got our sticky mitts, perfect, they're exactly the same things. Just use Stix2, as well as Hunkydory products, foam pads, and a few other bits and pieces too. I'll add some petals in as well. So these are kind of the main things that we're going to be using. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start from the die cut and work my way outwards. Because if I take a guess and cut my card blank to a specific size, I'm going to then have to work within that card size. So therefore, if I start with my die cut, then that's going to be the best way to go. Now, of course, you can use your rectangle nesting dies if you want. For this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut them myself. So that is the center. No, it's not. That is the Matastic. So let's take a sheet of the Matastic. Do I need a couple? I'm not sure. So we'll play that by ear. So let's move that out the way for now. So I'm going to have a look. I'm going to kind of just eyeball at the moment, and then I will be more specific with measurements just shortly. So actually, let's do that. What I'm going to do is, just so you can kind of see, actually I could use my ruler as well, couldn't I? But give myself that bit of a gauge. So there, so that'll be 3.5. I want kind of the same depth increment all the way round. And then that one, we could go in there, which is 8 inches. Perfect. So 3.5 by 8 inches. So let's bring in our guillotine. Do you know what I'm going to do first? Make it slightly easier. No, I'm not. I was going to put my double-sided adhesive sheet on the back first, but I'm not. I'm going to cut this first. So 3.5 by 8. No, that couldn't be because my pencil line. Yep, it's not quite 8. It is 7 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 7 and 7/8. Just because I do want to have that same, and in actual fact, let's go, there we go, that's better, 6/8, because that actually marries up to where my little pencil line was. Perfect. 3.5 by 7 and 6/8. There we go. I know it does look a little bit chunkier still at the side there, but remember you've got this overhang within the die cut. And then we're going to do that again. So 3.5 by 7 6/8. Let me just check within that one. So I've got them both the same. So let's move these little bits out the way for now. And in actual fact, no. I'm going to have one, and you'll see why. Because if I cut these both together, I could be just a couple of millimeters out, and they're not going to overlay bang on. So I don't need to worry about that, because that won't be waste. I'm always going to use that again. So that's fine. I've got a bigger bit, so we'll use that. Let's bring in our adhesive sheets. And you can, of course, use your dotty tape runner. You could use your tacky glue, anything like that, no problem at all. But I do like using my double-sided adhesive sheets, or your sticky mitts if you're using ours at Hunkydory's. And it just means that you've got no residue when it comes to the adhesive. So I'm going to start to peel the backing off here. And I am going to go close to that side there. Let's press that one down. And then let's see. Rightio, let's roughly cut. So I don't want to peel all that back in and waste that, because that can be used again. And peel that back. These bits I don't bin, because these good if you're using decoupage or decollage. Take all the backing off your foam pads first, stick them on here because it's non-stick, and then you can get that little bit of that kind of conveyor belt going. But let's pop that on there, and then I'm going to press that down. Now, if I was to come along with my scissors and trim that, although they're non-stick scissors and they truly are exceptional, I just want to avoid any little bit sticking. So what I like to do is I will trim just onto my cardstock. Now, when I say it is the tiniest bit of my card, just so that I'm not actually trimming away my adhesive, where that will then potentially stick to my blade. So let's pop that underneath there. Just stops us from sticking. I just need to trim that bit there. And then I'm going to do the same with this larger bit. Now what you'll need to potentially do is when you come to die cut, gosh, do you know what it is? It's because I moved my glass mat, wasn't it? I moved my glass mat, that's why. Out of line. Yes, what you might potentially need to do is use your metal shim when you're die cutting, because we've got our black card, we've got our white card, our matte tastic, and then we've got that adhesive layer. So move them out the way. So let's go to that smaller panel now. And I'm going to go in with my plates here. What's the one that I cut into? That one, because it's relatively new. So I've got my adhesive layer onto the back. So we're going to pop that on there. And then that can go over the top. Like so. And you know what? That tiny little slither was just enough for it to not be aligned. So we're going to go back to the drawing board when it comes to this layer here. So let's trim that to the exact size that I need. So that was 3.5. Careful if you're taking any little bits off, you don't cut yourself. So it was 3.5. So what I'm doing here and here, I'm just going to make sure that it is straight. So as long as I know I've got my 90-degree angle, I know the rest of the layers are going to be straight. So 3.5 by 7 and 6/8. You know what? I've done it again. I really need to give myself that little bit more. And remember, this is the great thing as well about not editing, is you see these. So you see any little issues, mistakes with that, you see how I overcome them. So let's take that bit there. That can get used again. So let's go back in with another piece of card. And we're going to re-measure, but this time what we're going to do is we're going to give ourselves that little bit more spacing all the way round. So let's be more kind this time, Craig. So I'm going to do a little mark to start with, and then we can work out the measurement in a minute. Thing is, we could always trim afterwards if I needed. So that is so what line is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8. 3 5/8. And then that one is 8 inches. So I was right the first time round, which was 8 inches. That will then give us, yeah, that'll give us more of that neater edge. Let's take this off and we'll cut another panel just shortly. We'll get cutting with this. So let's align that. I'm not going to be overly concerned about this excess because it's still not waste, because I can just pop that back on and then trim it, and then I can still use that another time. Let's trim that. And then now, this time, because I've given myself a respectable amount of depth all the way round, that means when I do come to trim that excess off, I don't need to worry about it not fitting the down. There we go. That's better. So let's take those bits off. Now I know that will still fit perfectly. Yes, it will. There we go. We got there in the end. And I'm going to line that up. We're going to bring in our ultra low tack tape. We're going to tape that down. So let's go in with our plates. Now, I don't know what I've done with my large A4 metal shim, so we'll just go in with the A5. You can see with the size of this would sit on or fit onto your A5 plates. And you might, oh, there we go, disappear. You might want to try it first without your metal shim. I'm using the Gemini, so I know there's a good chance that it would cut no bother without that metal shim, but just because I've got those additional layers and because I've got that sandwich in the middle with that sticky layer, I want to make sure that it's going to cut perfectly. Which if I start to peel, yeah, you can see it starts to peel back. So that's spot on. So let's carefully prise that back, and then we're going to go in and we're just going to pop these little bits out. Now these you are going to have to take just a little minute or two to pop out. They have die cut, but remember you've got that sandwich layer with your sticky sheet. So therefore that's what's actually holding bits of it in. So you just need to be patient and pop them out. And we're going to repeat this step in a minute. So if I go back to what I was saying towards the start, if I was to cut another piece of cardstock this exact size, then die cut it again as I've done, then go to stick it over the top, the chances of me getting that bang on is very, very, very slim. So the best way around that is cut your first one to the size you want, which is this one. And then we'll take another piece of our Matastic card, a little bit bigger, repeat that step, stick this on the top. Then what we can do with our scissors or our guillotine, we can trim around that excess. So if it's not quite making sense at the moment, it will just shortly. Do please trust me. Follow the process and you'll see how it comes. And then you don't necessarily have to do 2 layers if you don't want to, but I like having that kind of chipboard feel to it, that little bit of thickness to it. So we're just going to take these out. Any teeny little bits you'll probably find, if you're not wanting to pop out, they'll start to prise away once you take the sticky backing or the non-stick backing off afterwards. So let's take that, and then let's take that. And then what you will find is a lot of it. There's my dye brush. If I left it on my desk at the work, I need to treat myself to one. So I've got one at home. Not to worry what I'm going to do, because it'll take no time at all. So I'm just going to pop all these little bits out. You can tap the back if you want to. And anyone that knows me, that's the sort of thing I do. However, as we stand at the moment, because my carpets in my craft room are still new, very, very new, I want to avoid any inky mess on them, and I want to avoid getting any sticky residue on them. So that's why I'm just going to pop them out. But it doesn't take long at all. If you've got your dye brush, you can use that. There we go. There's that, and then there's that one. You do want to make sure you've got all the bits. There's nothing stuck underneath, because that could affect the next time that you use the dye. So there's that one, and then there's that one. All right. So now that we've got that layer, let's take all that off. I'm going to put that into the bin. These large, well, all these, because you've got your sticky layer, you could, if you wanted to, use them to do paper piecing, because in essence what they all are is they're all stickers if you prise the backing off. Now I wouldn't, as much as I love paper piecing, I wouldn't necessarily do that with all the tiny, tiny bits, but any of the larger bits you could absolutely do that. So let's take another piece of our Matastic, and then let's take another piece, a larger piece of our double-sided adhesive sheet. And so I don't need that full size, but just roughly that little bit bigger. And in actual fact, what I'm going to do, just to make doubly sure, I'm going to go this way, because I want to make sure I've given myself ample space all the way around. So let's trim that. And then let's take our sheet. So I'm going to do the same again. Let's trim that. And this is going to be the easiest way to overlay an intricate die on top of itself. There we go, fighting with the stickiness. So let's pop that on. And then I don't really need to worry about these lines being straight, because we're going to be trimming it afterwards. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to use my scissors, cutting onto my card to stop any of those layers from the adhesive sheet sticking to my scissors. Like so. So let's take these ones. And you will find in a moment, there's a reason why I've put a sticky layer on the back of that one also. Also makes it easier to stick down and not have to fight with your dotty tape runner or your tacky glue. So I've given myself ample room all the way around here. So we're going to do the same, repeating that step. So let's tape that down. Bringing in my plates. If you are using a Gemini machine, I've got base plate, my metal shim, frosted, magnetic, and then top plate. I have got a big shot at the side of me, but I don't have a metal shim at the moment, and I've not tried it without a metal shim. So that's what I need to have a little bit of a play with, maybe at the weekend. So let's bring these in now. So let's prise that away. But we want to be careful because there's a small chance, going back to having that sticky sandwich in the middle, that can grab on to the delicate lines. So you just want to watch that you don't pull them away. I'm going to clean that afterwards because I won't need that again. And then we're going to pop these little bits out. Those double-sided adhesive sheets, what they're also good at is if you put a piece of the double-sided sheet, sticky mitts if you're using Hunkydories, if you were to pop that onto the bit of card like we've done, so let's say for instance, so if I peel that off now and then stick that over the top, all those apertures are going to be left sticky. You could pop your Gildan flakes and all that, you can pop them in there. It's a good way of using your Gildan flakes, and then also your dyes, or you could use your glitters if you want to. So if you've ever wondered, and I'll do that at some point, I doubt I'll have time within this tutorial because I spent that little bit of time of remeasuring at the start. But what I might do is I might film a quick kind of 10-minute recapping, die cutting with the sticky sheet and then popping the Gildan flakes, just so that you've got an idea how you can do it for anyone that's new with Gildan flakes. Because for Gildan flakes, I love them. They can be messy, but I do love them. I think they're so effective. Right, and then if you've seen me on Hunkydory TV, when we launch these, the sheets are good for stopping you getting any, not resist, well, yeah, I suppose resist. If you were to colour in all these little apertures with your alcohol pen, if you've got any little glue dots or any of your wet glue, what can happen is that can resist the colour. Even though it's alcohol, you still get that washed out look. So the double-sided sheets are a great way to avoid that. Right, so now we're going to go back to the first one that we've actually cut to the size that we want. I'm just going to trim just those little bits, just where my guillotine's not quite caught it because of the sticky layer. So we're going to prise the backing off. I'm just going to be careful so we don't tear any of the lines of the actual die cut. There we go. And then at this point, we're going to try not handle it too much on the back with your fingers. I know it's impossible to not touch some of it, but if you try and handle as little as you can, it's just a little bit stuck there. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to choose a section. Let's pop that underneath so maybe you can see it better. We're going to choose a section. So I'm going to choose down here and I'm going to go right over the top. And I don't have to worry about fitting along the outside line because I've cut this layer bigger, so it doesn't matter about me having to line up with that outside line, because we can just come along and then trim. So if we press that down, and we can press it with our hands, or if you want to use something like your brayer, you can absolutely do that. If you don't use your brayer for your inks, it's a good way to really press down. And now, at this point, what we can do, either with your guillotine, craft knife, or your scissors, we can trim all the way around, and I'm going to use my guillotine, I'm following that outer edge from the top there. So let me start there. There we go. Follow all the way along, and then let's just neaten that up. It's a nice, easy and pain-free way of lining up two layers that need to be bang on, exactly the same as each other. Just got a little bit of adhesive sheet stuck there, so I'm going to trim that with my scissors, and then there we go. We've got that thicker kind of chipwood effect. You could go even thicker if you wanted to. You can do that. What I'm going to do is let's neaten that, so that's just moved ever so slightly. So I'm just going to make sure that's nice and straight, and then we're going to have to straighten that edge and straighten that edge, just so that we've got it exactly the way that we want it. Straight edge. So let's choose a measurement here, just so we can read it. So now that is, the height is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 7 7/8 by 3.5 inches. So that's what we've got size-wise all the way around. So if I bring that back in again, and then that's how we've lined them up, and we've got that thickness to them. So I'm going to take these bits out because we still need the guillotine. So we're going to now take another piece of our white matte tastic, but we're not going to stick any sticky layer to the back of it. What I'm going to do is two ways that you can do this. It's entirely up to yourself here. You can stick this on and then freehand cut with your guillotine, leaving a little matting layer, or you can cut this a few millimeters bigger, then trim. It's up to yourself. What I'm going to do, usually I cut my mats and layers to the size that I want, but in this instance, what I'm going to do, and then this is where adding that double-sided adhesive sheet layer onto the back becomes your best friend. We're going to peel that off once again. We're just making sure we've got all these little bits. Saves having to go in with tacky glue, dotty tape runner, which are great. I love my tacky glue. So can I get it? Oh, I can just get it that way. So I'm going to leave myself round about, maybe about 2 millimeters. So I've got my about 2 millimeters there, 2 millimeters at the bottom, and then we can bring our guillotine and we're going to leave ourselves about 2 millimeters. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of a thicker edge, and then I can trim afterwards. And there we go. Just going to trim that there. So I've got my matte and layer edge to the side just here, and then we're going to do that once again onto our morning mist. And in actual fact, just a little slither away. This time I am going to cut my matting layer first because I want to stick that onto foam pads and then onto that. If I put foam pads now, stick that on, it can start to interfere slightly with the finger guard. So I'm just going to have a look here at the measurement. I'm going to go over the size to start with, so I can trim afterwards once I'm happy. And then, yeah, actually, that would be fine. Maybe just a teeny slither. Teeniest of slither. Yeah, that's it. Happy enough with that one. And then now, because that's my last layer, I now know what size to work and create my card blank. The other thing that we don't want to do just yet, and in actual fact, I've missed a step, because before we stick the rose onto the back layer, I was meant to die cut that circle. However, we're still going to do it, but we're just going to kind of slightly deviate away from the original plan. So it looks slightly different, but it'll still work. So now that I know what my base layer is, let's bring, I'm going to use this for my card base. You could use your Matastic if you want to, but when I create my own card blanks, which isn't often, but when I do, I'll use our A4 card block, because of course this is going to be bigger than DL, so we need to create our own. So I want to leave myself a little bit of a thicker matting layer, so that is 8 1/4. So let's do 8 1/2, and that is 3 3/4. So let's do 4, and let's just double check. Yep, give me that little bit of a thicker white matting layer. So as that starts to come together, that's going to start to look like that, which I'm happy with. So let's do that one again. So 8 1/2 by 4. And let's just make sure, yep, perfect size. I'm going to move that out the way for now, and then we can bring in our scoreboard. So I'm going to sit them with my card block pad, just so I remind myself that it's the card block and not Matastic. So I managed to get lights on the ceiling, but as you can see, I've kind of got them a little bit too close together, so you can just kind of see them popping out the edge, which actually annoys me. So that's why I wouldn't usually be this close up, but I'm doing it just so that we can avoid those lights at the side for now. I'm going to zoom out slightly. And because we're making our own card blank, I tend to score at about 1/2 inch in. You could go 1/4 inch if you wanted to, you could have it thicker if you want, it's up to you, but I'm going to score at that 1/2 inch just to give me that seam at the top. And then I'm going to go in with my glue. So I'm going to go in with my wet glue. If you've got our premium white glue, use that one. So let's align that up, press that down. Not going to open it just yet, but, well, actually I can grab it. What I'll then have is I'll have my card blank, my top fold card blank. So let's pop that on just now, because we can, and then this one will die cut in a moment. So using your choice of adhesive, when I've got time I like to use my tissue tape, and this is the one that we've got at £1 currently if you're watching this in real time. So if you go across on a Hunkydory Crafts website at the time of me posting this, then you'll find that you've got it for £1. I'll also use, I'll also tag Stix2s in the description. So let's take these little bits. I've left my main pokey tool in the office. So I've got this older one, which isn't quite sharp, hence why I'm fighting with taking the back off. It's not the tape, it's my pokey tool. I think I've dropped it that many times that it's not got that fine point. So that can go onto there. Right, we can set that out the way. So let's go in with our circle dies. Where have I popped them all? I had them earlier. He says, oh, they're right in front of me. I've set them up right in front of me. Right, so let's bring that one back in. Now the only thing we're doing it this way is in essence that's 3 layers of 300 GSM card that we've got. But if we need to use our scissors, then we can do that too. So if I take that one out, so what I want is I want to kind of gauge it with the circle die. Let's go in with the With Love. So there's the With Love. And then I'm going to choose the die. That's a little bit. So yeah, that'll be fine. Now, the next size up, that's for something else, that's why. You'll see just shortly. Right, yep, that's fine. I'll move that out the way now. So these and these, let's take some of the grey card. Let's take that largest circle. Let's pop that down. And in actual fact, what we can do is we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. So let's align them together. If you're not comfortable using 2 dies so close together, you can do them separate if you want. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to have the tape too much within the centre, because what I can also do at the same time is I can cut this one out. I think I need a couple of new bits of tape. So I can cut that at the same time. So let's realign that one up there. Realign that one up there. And then we can pop that. It doesn't need to be bang centre into the middle. There we go. He says, let's realign that again. I think it's because I've got a little kind of dip in my die. Right. Now, will they go through the small machine? Nope. Not quite. Not quite. So, let's bring in our plates. I'm just going to use my A4 plates, even though this would fit within my junior plates, because I've got the larger ones here. We're going to run that one through. Let that go so far. I'm going to bring that one back. So because the With Love circle die cuts out as a whole, it's a nice way just to use up that intersection. So let's move that back. So that's the frame that I want there. And then this is where the other set of circle nesting dies come in. So if I pop that out, because you've got that solid centre, none of these dies from that set kind of worked, whereas one of these ones did. probably, nope. There we go, it was that one. So it was the second smallest. And in actual fact, we could have, if I was careful with my tape, I could have done that as well. Just going to run that one through. So we've got those bits. I'm going to pop them out the way and we'll sort that later. I'll just let that go all the way through there. So now we've got a With Love with an aperture circle. Now what I would have done originally, or what I was meant to do, out the two circle dies, the smallest one, before we stuck the outline of the roses to the back, I would have placed that over the edge and then just run it through and die cut it. Now I'm still going to do that, but of course we've got multiple layers here. So we're going to just do what we're going to have to do. Space wise, I just want to make sure that we've got enough space so that we can see the With Love sentiment, which should be fine there. And I'm going to press that down. Now, what I'm not going to do is run this through. This probably, very high chance, that's not going to cut first time because you've got that thickness. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let that go through. I don't want to do it too much because I don't want to flatten those double layers of the die cut that I've done. So I'll let that do kind of like an indentation if it's not fully cut. Although it is pretty close. So if I peel that one away and that one away. So I've got just at the edge there. It's not quite cut. So I'm going to finish that off there. And I'm just going to finish that off there. So that's now given me that cut into section. Now the only difference this time is we're going to see the grey, which is obviously going to then just fall into the colour. So we're going to add a bit of white in a moment. If I bring in that frame that we've done, it just neatens the edge really, really nicely. Instead of having that harsh outside edge, it neatens it nicely. So we're going to go all the way around. And then we're going to pop that over to neaten that edge. And just make sure it does that. It neatens it. Don't worry about this bit because we can trim that in a minute. Press down. Now I don't need a full bit of white on the back, I just need enough to cover that section. So yeah, that'll be fine. And it doesn't even need to be straight at this point because we can simply layer over the top. We can match that down the side and then that's going to give us our white backdrop. And in actual fact, yeah, all good plans. Oh no, I was right. I was about to say, I was meant to stick that down on foam pads, but it's not. It's this layer. I keep questioning myself tonight. You wouldn't think that I'd already, when I say pre-made this, I made it with intention to give to someone, but I liked it that much that I thought, do you know what, I'm going to film that. So yeah, I've not done it quite in the same order as my original one, but gets me thinking on my feet and how to overcome. So if you do ever kind of forget to die cut at certain times, don't worry, there's ways around it. So we can, and we'll obviously neaten that up just shortly. We can pop a little bit of card underneath and you're going to be absolutely good to go. So the best way to do this, because I want to have that flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this with my wet glue to start with, or if you've got our construction glue, you can use that. So I'm going to line that up there, and then actually that's pretty much bang on where I want it. Just budge that across slightly. Yeah, that's fine. Perfect. Press that down, and then let's come in with our foam pads. So these ones are 2mm foam pads that I'm going for. And I have, just so that you know, I do still use ours as well. So let's add these. And if you don't want thickness to it with foam pads, with having that kind of chipboard effect with the double layers, you could very, very easily get away with not having any foam pads, and that layer, that double layer of the die cut, is going to add that bit of depth to it. So let's prise and pop them on. Always make sure you've got a nice layer of foam pads. So we're going to peel these ones off. What you could do is, if you've got our double-sided adhesive A4 foam pad sheets, you could use them. I just want to make sure, yep, we're the right way. We've not got an Australian card. So let's align that up and align that up there. Press down. There we go, that still worked and done the job. And then we can now see the with love. What I want to do is I want to bring in my vertical dies. So we're going to do sympathy. Didn't I say that? We've got sympathy here. No, we don't. What made me think we had sympathy on this one? Thinking of you. Let's do thinking of you. Closest thing. So that's thinking of and you. So backdrop we're going to do within the white matte-tastic. No, we're not. We're going to do it in the grey matte-tastic. Have I got a little bit of grey left over? Take this bit here. So the backdrop we'll do within the grey, and then the actual sentiment we're going to do within the white. So think it doesn't matter the placement because it's going to die cut out. Let's pop that on, and then let's pop that on. Let's bring in my little sidekick, quite literally. Run that one through. So there's that backdrop. Thinking of you, I say backdrop, it's the matte layer. Move that out the way, and then let's bring in the actual sentiment. So thinking of you, this would be another great point to use your double-sided adhesive sheets, but because it's thin and fine, I'm just going to go in with my tacky glue, because that's what I'll usually use as my wet tacky glue. Run that one through. Alright, so if I pop that out, and although I've gone for the grey and the whites, you know, you could be adventurous with the colours, because this style would work and look really, really nice with different colours. It could be pastel tones. It could be actual monochromatic with greys, whites, blacks, silvers. or you can go bright tones. Lots of ways in which you can steer into. Alright, so let's bring these bits here. I'm going to go in with my glue, so let's bring the back in for thinking. Now anything that's fine and I can't even say it, intricate like these, I kind of say what a sketch over the back. I just quickly go over with the fine point of my tacky glue. So whether it's Stix2, whether it's ours, with the fine point, sketch over the back. There's that one. Let's do it in order. Let's go in with of. Pop that on. You might find it easier with tweezers. Tweezers is never something that I've really used a lot of. I just tend to use my fingers. And if I do them now, it gives it a few moments for it to stick and grab. Let's just move that so it's central. So thinking of you. So if I set them out the way. Now what I want to do is I want to position it so that I still see some of with love. So if I do it that way, it means I see the with love at the left, the with love at the right hand side. Doesn't matter about the with love at the top and the bottom, because at least we can see it each side. And then we can go thinking of you. So I'm happy with that. And then what I'm not actually going to do is I'm not going to put glue on the back of the with loves. I'm just going to go around that aperture there. And if the with loves kind of stick up a little bit, I'm absolutely fine with that. Let's turn it so I practice what I preach. You will find anyway, because it's fine and delicate, they will kind of stay flat. But if they were raised slightly or popped up slightly, I'm not really bothered. So we can press that down. And then let's go back and align them. So that works fine. We've got that slight crossover top and bottom to the circle with the thinking, and then the of and you sits nicely in the middle. And let's bring in a square foam pad. So I am one of those that are a huge advocate of the original 5mm by 5mm foam pads. Yes, we've got our foam pad strips. Yes, you can chop down your larger foam pads. Yes, I do that at times, but I am still a big fan of the original 5x5 because they are so good for little die cuts like this. So if I pop that there, thinking, and then we can go in with the of you. Now if you've got your glue gel, gives you that wiggle room, you can use that. You just need to, of course, let that dry. Or if you do want to use your foam pads, you can pop a little bit of the white glue on the back or your glue stick, anything like that you can use. So I always like to go back just to refer for spacing. And then what I'll tend to do as well, if it's like a smaller die cut, I'll sometimes just go in with my pokey tool. So of you. Now I'm going to add a few grey pearls, so I'm going to get them. And because this is a thinking of you sympathy card, it would look really nice with a few little tiny butterflies. So let's go in with my Diamond Sparkle pearl. So I just want the lighter grey ones. So I'm going to do 3 in the top corner here, and I'm going to do 1 down here. So, and I tend to like that middle size, yeah. Got enough there. Now this is something I always do and have always done for years. doesn't matter how incredible the quality is of self-adhesive gems or pearls, like Hunkydory's, I will still always pop a little bit of wet glue underneath just to make sure. That's a lighter grey one there. Because, you know, wear and tear, being manhandled, if it's on the mantelpiece, it's been lifted, it's been looked at. You have to think about, certainly the smaller ones, yes, they're self-adhesive and the adhesive is strong, but really it is just a tiny, tiny little bit of adhesive that's on the back. So there's no harm in giving it that little helping hand by popping a little bit of your tacky glue or your 2-in-1 glue pen. That would work as well. Let's press that down, and then if I go in with my dies, so I'm going, these are my dies that sit under my desk. That's the one. And I'm just going to turn it there so I remember where I got it from. Yeah, and then each night I bring them home with me in case I need them. Now, these ones being the fluttering butterflies, but all that I want is just one of the silhouette butterflies, and we're going to do it in white. Now, you've actually got 3 different sized little butterflies, so you could use one of each. But I'm not. I'm just going to do 3 of this one size. And I think because it is a thinking of you card, I think it works really well just having, and in actual fact, yeah, I think the smallest one out of the 3 is going to be even better. So die cut that in with the white Matastic, so the cotton white, and a bit like gems or pearls, anything like that, I'm going to do 3, so odd numbers. So either do 1, 3, 5. So in this instance, I'm going to do 3. And the white will kind of blend into the background, which is something we usually say that we don't want, because if we find something's going to blend into the background, we tend to do something else. But on this instance, I kind of want the butterflies to blend in. If you don't, if you want them to be a bit more visible, do it within the grey card. And then what I do, so 9 times out of 10, it's 3 butterflies. I have one going one direction, the middle one going the other, and then the top one going back into the other direction. So I could pop that one going that way. This one, I could position there, and that's fluttering that way. And then this one again, I'll go back to going up that way. And then before I stick that down, let's do our insert. Is that going to be big enough? Yes, that's perfect. So inserts that I do are all Mats and Layers inserts. Very rarely will I put like a loose leaf insert. So if I use any one of our inserts at Hunkydory, I'll trim it down and then matte and layer it onto the colour. And what I've always said for years, and you don't have to go with this, but when you're matte and layering an insert, the best way to think of it is the darkest colour you've used on the front is going to be the matte and layer on the inside. So for instance, when you open it up, the darkest colour on this front is the grey. So the grey is what I'm going to use to matte and layer my white cardstock. So if the darkest colour was green, I know green's a light colour, but when it comes to the colour families, it would have been the darkest colour. Therefore, that's what I would use for the mats and layers. It's just something that I've always done and I've always said, and it's always worked well. The thing this time with the mats and layers, you've got to take into account, you've got that 1/2 inch increment at the top. So that is from the base up to my score line, that's 8 inches. And then that, what did I say it was? 4, didn't I? So I'm going to come down 1/2 inch. So 3.5 by 7.5. So that gives me my bit of my thicker white edges. And then this one, I'm only going to come down about 1/4 inch. So that's 3.25 by 7.25. And at this point, if you've got something to stamp onto, if you've got a verse to stick inside, or pre-print, usually I'll print them and then cut them before I stick them in. Most of my verses are printed. You've got that option. But even if you've made a card and at that moment in time you've not got a recipient in mind, still pop your matte and layer insert in, because you'll thank yourself later for doing it. When you actually need it, you think, oh, I've got to go and do the mattes and layers and that. Whereas now all that I need to do is, because this is ready, print my insert, stamp my insert, whatever it is, pop it in, and then that's me good to go. I really need to get rid of this poketail because it really does actually have a dud end. I can see it. I'm trying to use it just to scoop up. So let's pop that into there. And then we can pop that into the inside. So if I put this in now, I don't need to worry about squashing my butterflies once I've glued them down. And take these little bits. Even if you've got little bits left over, do take them off, because they are a non-stick back in. So you just want to make sure you've got them off. So let's stick that one in there. Now, if you want your mattes and layers and that to be thicker, of course you can absolutely do that. But I tend to like the main ones to be about that 1/2 inch increment, then 1/4 inch. But because I've used the darkest tone from the front, which is the grey, it just works well, and it pulls the eye in from the front to the inside. And then let's go in with our glue. So I'm going to bend the wings up and then pop the body. And then we're just going to hold and grab for a moment. He says, well, that didn't work because I've got sticky gunk on the end. Let's take, just use a fine ball just to hold it for it to grab. And then this next one, I like to stick them on the actual outline of the die cut. You can stick them on the inside if you want, but it's just as makes it look as though they're actually just sitting on the edge of the leaf or the petal. And then last but by no means least, this one, I tell you what, let's come a little bit further up. Pop that one into there. Just let that grab. And then there we go. And then come along. If we've got a bit of depth to it, this is where I would make a shallow box for it. Maybe just about 1/2 inch depth with a lid. If you've got envelope making sets, you can make an envelope to go with it. But there we go. We've just changed the actual design slightly by die cutting in and then making a feature of that circle when it comes to the with love as well as the thinking of you. And I didn't show you the original one, did I? That was the original one that I done. Happy anniversary. So that's what I done, which gave me the idea to recreate it, but do it as a thinking of you. And you've got that nice sympathy card or a simple thinking of you card. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed that one. So let's go a little bit closer. You can just see, and there we go. So you've got that full length there. And that would work well with the Gerbera die as well. Or if you've got your scalloped rectangle mats and layers, incorporate them. So yeah, lots and lots of ways. But nice way to show how you can still adapt the actual image from that floral frame that Stacey and Jen have designed for you. Let me know, hopefully you liked that, and hopefully the little kind of mistake at the beginning of not quite getting the layers sorted was a nice way to show you how you can overcome that when it comes to making your cards, should that happen to yourself. Rightio, until the next time, thank you so much for your company on my tutorial here on my Hunkydory Crafts YouTube channel, and we will see you again very soon. Bye.